Hi, this is Al Dinardo, and this is Al Dinardo Comments. I'm a town meeting member from Saugus, Precinct 4, and a lifelong resident of Saugus. And I will make commentaries available from time to time as we see fit. This is February of 2013. And currently on the horizon in Saugus, there have been two major issues that are confronting the town at this time. First of all being the recent appointment of a member of the Finance Committee by Moderator Bob Long. We all agree that that is an appointment of the moderator. However, in 2006, town meeting did vote a resolution expressing the will of town meeting, and that's how we do that in town meeting, that the moderator would advertise those positions. And I think in light of what went on under the previous administration of enterprise accounts, we understand what happened with Cascaluski Rink, of a deficit that started at $60,000 and went on to close to $1 million. The water enterprise accounts with the misappropriation, stipends, on and on and on. If you read last year's audit report, will tell of the many indiscrepancies that were made under the former town manager, that I think more so than ever that the moderator should heed and listen to the will of town meeting. That is the job of town meeting. It is not the job of the moderator, and I've said this publicly, to be a Speaker of the House. He is there to referee. He is there to simply watch and guide the meeting under Robert's Rules of Order. If you remember the late Clayton Treffry, our former moderator, that's really what he was about, was being a moderator. And I remember distinctly when I first was elected in town meeting in 1989, there was an issue had come up, and I could really didn't know or could distinguish how Mr. Treffry was voting on issues until finally there happened to be a tie vote. And I remember very, very quickly that Mr. Treffry gave his yay or nay, I don't remember what, and the gavel came down. And that was done extremely quickly. And it was only at that time I really knew the heart and the mind of the moderator on any issue. At that time we had the transition had taken place from former town manager Norman Hanson to town manager Edward Collins. And I really didn't know where Mr. Treffry stood on the manager and on his issues. That, to me, is a moderator. And that is the job of moderator, to adhere to the will of town meeting, to listen to town meeting, to listen to the voice of town meeting, and that was done in our resolution. So I've expressed many times now that I'm not happy with what Mr. Long has done. He has come out publicly and said that this was about trying to tie this in to the charter vote of 2009. I supported the charter change of 2009, knowing that Saugus needed sweeping changes. And so in supporting that, if it had passed, there was no way I could currently serve in the legislative branch as I do now. I just don't have the time for it. So in theory, I was supporting my own demise for the greater good of Saugus and knowing that we needed reform. Clearly, if that document had passed, the legislative branch would have been given more authority. Now, if you look back at the town meeting, which is the legislative branch, you'll see that we have been a very good steward of our authority. When the former town manager refused to adhere to ADA compliance, all the handicap ramps you see in Saugus Center, in that program that's going on, we formed a committee and as a vote of town meeting, and more or less had to force the manager through the legislative branch to adhere to federal law on handicap ramps, and you see that today around Saugus Center. That was an act of the legislative branch. When the executive branch and the administration runs amok, it is the duty of the legislative branch to exercise its authority. The legislative branch is very slow and cumbersome, but extremely powerful when we act. And I'll refer to another incident of December of 2009 when a previous Board of Selectmen saw fit to scale back Citizens Forum, limiting, in other words, that you would have to it serve notice beforehand. You just couldn't leave your home and run down Town Hall and have an open mic situation. They were looking to do away with that. Well, later on in the spring, it was town meeting that was going to act by instituting a bylaw changing that. And that is what turned it around. That is when the board at that point had backed down in knowing that town meeting was going to exercise its authority and implement a bylaw saying that, this open forum would be available for all meetings, and rightly so. So that's the second case of what we have done. There were times that we were heeding the warning under the past administration. We had concerns about deficits. I know had raised concerns about the water rates, of water paying for water, and in that case it was not. So we have been a very good steward of our authority in through all this. And I have spoke with our moderator. I have expressed it publicly many times. Many of you have read that I have not been happy with where our moderator has gone in the last few years. And sadly to say, it continues as recent as this week. So I don't know what town meeting is going to do. I don't know what can happen to change that. I know it's important that a moderator listen to the will of town meeting. We are closest to the people. This is the system that Mr. Long had advocated for, and claiming that this was closest to the people. This was what he had advocated for when he was against the charter change. So that is my thoughts, and to clear up some matters on the recent appointment. Again, as I had stated, I am not necessarily against the person that is being vying to be positioned, vying for that position of finance committee, but the fact, the process. What happens when a moderator goes out and does something like this is the question of who else is in the community that wants to serve. I do know of someone that did want to serve and never got the opportunity to serve. And I think in light of what we have gone through financially in this community in the last few years, and the deception and the manipulation of town affairs, that more so now than ever that we need greater accountability of a moderator, and sweeping changes are necessary. The second issue confronting Saugus is obviously our town manager. If you recall, it was last year, a year ago about this time, that Selectman Castanetti was going to support the current manager and give a one-year contract. It was at that time that it was revealed by our town council that the charter reads multiple of years. So that meant that begrudgingly some had to support our current manager and give him a 2-year contract. Well, that 1 year, original 1 year that they wanted is now up. And I know there's much of a debate and a stalemate now with the manager's contract. But I want to clarify a few things. Why the charter says multiple years. And I've said this publicly on the blogs, and I've said this to other people. Why that is done. You have to understand the office of town manager has a lot of authority. If you follow the charter deliberation, and the attorney for the charter commission had stated that any manager in the state of Massachusetts would love this sort of authority. If you read the charter, he has the authority to consolidate, abolish departments, on and on and on, what sort of authority he has. And that authority goes back sort of to the mindset just after World War II, the late 1940s, of the consolidation of power in order that swift action can be made. We have seen how much power that can have in the wrong hands. And we witnessed that with our former town manager. We had someone here that had served to be the longest serving town manager, and the question to ask is, really, what do we have for that 9 years? What I want to caution some board members is we have now had our manager on a tight leash. The problem when we do that is that then now the manager is at the will of the winds of the politics within Saugus. And at this point, I know that our manager has proven himself. First of all, he's honest, and he lives in the community. He has a young family here, and I know he has his whole career ahead of him. So I'm sure we're not going to have a repeat of what went on around here for 9 years. But our manager, Mr. Crabtree, needs to make bold moves. In order to make bold moves, he must be above the political tossing and turning within Saugus. And that is why the charter says multiple of years. Ideally, my opinion would be that our manager should be given 3 years so he can make his mark. If some of you recall, the former town manager Ed Collins, the late Ed Collins, made some bold moves with the total of the CIP, which is the total revamping of town buildings. At that time, it was very controversial. It cost us about $30 million. Today, that would be a bargain. Just think what would it cost today to revamp all those buildings. There was no way. And if you remember going up to the auditorium of what it was before the CIP, of the old DPW offices, were all in that auditorium, all cut up into different office space. So my point I'm trying to make here is that when we keep the manager on a tight leash, which we have done, then this man or woman needs to adhere to 4 of those votes, must placate to that. And for that to be ongoing, of course that's going to happen through the end of someone's contract, we understand that, but for that to happen ongoing, that is a detriment to where Saugus needs to go. We need bold ideas, we need changes, we need a manager that can be above the political fray and be above of this 5-member board. They're there to sift things politically. The manager, as former Selectman Dick Barry used to say, let the manager manage. And that's not what has been happening the last year. There has been this toss around of the manager. So, in my opinion, our manager needs 3 years in order to set his mark on Saugus and to let what he does be the judge, not what people say and not how it fits into somebody's political agenda in Saugus. We have come out of this past 9 years relatively unscathed, other than the fact, let me remind you that 20 people did lose their jobs. And let me also remind you that current manager Crabtree has had to now complete, I'm sure he's working on FY14 as we speak, complete 3 budgets. He had to clear up the budget of the fraudulent budget under the former town manager. He had to present this year's FY13 budget, and now I'm sure he's wrapping up FY14. So in less than a year, we have had our manager working on 3 budgets. I could not imagine the gentleman from Ludlow jumping in to what went on, clearing up and getting a grasp of what had happened under the former town manager, and going forward with that and getting Saugus on the right track. Unfortunately, again, 20 people lost their jobs, 20 working people. These weren't people making excessive salaries. These were people just making a check with medical insurance and some benefits. But because of what had happened on the former town manager, 20 people lost their jobs. So, in closing, I want to say once again is that the board of selectmen who listens to the people of this town, and 3 of them right now are on board with supporting the manager, and he needs to be given his chance, and then we can review how he does in the future. But let his actions, let him blossom into what he needs to be and bring Saugus where it needs to be. So I'd like to thank you for this time, and I'll continue to comment as necessary as issues come forward, and we'll keep in touch. This is Al Dinardo. This is the Al Dinardo Commentary. Thank you.